Hi, everyone. Welcome, everyone, to our Teams Premium for GCC webinar. Everybody here should be hosted inside the GCC tenant in O365. Predominantly are going to be state, local government, and federal customers. If you were not aware, Teams Premium is available today for GCC, and today's webinar is to talk about capabilities, updates, and opportunities to partner with Teams Engineering. And with us today, we have John, Margie, Mansoor, and other folks within the Teams Premium feature team. And now I will be turning it over to John.
Awesome. Thank you, Rocky. Can you all hear me okay? Awesome. I got the thumbs up. So yeah, on Rocky's behalf, also want to give a super warm welcome and thank you to everyone for joining us. I will be doing a lot of the speaking, but we have, as Rocky mentioned, a lot of our engineering team who actually builds the product and works on it in the chat. So if you have questions, feel free to drop those in. And then towards the end, we'll do a bit of a deeper Q&A dive. But also want to say thank you to the broader team that actually does all the work. I just get to talk about it. So we're here to talk to you today about Microsoft Teams Premium. We'll talk about the capabilities, functionalities, kind of the background of why we built it and brought it to market, et cetera. And then again, would love to engage with the audience a little bit. So a quick start. I don't think it's a surprise to many of you, that the age of AI is here. As far as we've come a long way from using our digital assistants like Cortana or Siri to help with our kind of basic day-to-day management. We're starting to see these show up in our workplace productivity tooling. And we've seen this trend start with things like, if you're familiar with some of our advanced threat analytics and kind of that industry or space, right, getting a lot of proactive alerting and doing things on our behalf based on different variables we want to set. But this idea that we all want to work smarter, not necessarily harder, so we can leverage AI for things that are very kind of behavioral learning or machine learning based. So I will be looking at my monitor here. I'm not ignoring folks, but so on this slide, you'll see, I think, something that's extremely interesting when we think about technologies and the way that they were adopted or how quickly they were adopted. I'm getting the audio choppy. Let me try and switch headphones 1 second. All right, how does this sound?
Sounds great.
Infinitely better. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, sorry about that, folks. So we'll keep going here. And so again, I think this slide is super interesting when you think about the terms of how quickly something was adopted within broad use, and mobile phones, internet, Facebook, as far as how folks connect across the world. You see ChatGPT hit 100 million users in essentially a little over 3 months. Which, when you think about that adoption rate, it shows that this is a tool that not only was widely not necessarily needed, but desired, but it's also ease of use, right? You don't get to that type of adoption by having something that's complex or completely misunderstood. So I think that's what really speaks volumes, is not only are people looking for this type of help or support, but it's easy to use. And so another really helpful graphic, I think, that really sets the context of this age of AI and machine learning showing up in the workplace. As we think about different technological revolutions or products that came going way back to the old school printing press, and how it had its impact on GDP. And you can see this scale really start to take off as we've entered the technology revolution of the late 1900s and obviously the 2000s. But you see AI is going to, in my guess, as I go ahead and see if I can find my little laser pointer here, in my guess, start to really what we call hockey stick this and really drive this up. But right, we talk about the benefits that AI can help us with.
And this will all transition into essentially why we built Teams Premium. So the weight of work, right? These came from Microsoft's annual Work Trend Index report, which is a public report that Microsoft runs every year that works with CEOs around the globe, end users around the globe, everyone kind of from the labor force. And we start to collect trends on how the workplace is going, how their work-life balance, workday is going, tooling, etc. And these were the kind of the biggest three that jumped out on me in terms of how we think about teams and collaboration. So folks feel nearly 2/3 feel that they're spending too much time searching for information. So this could be after a meeting trying to follow up. Hey, where was this said? Or I remember Margie shared a document with me, but I don't remember where that was. Was it email, Teams, etc. So a lot of times searching for information, which we see as kind of downtime and productivity. This is a continued trend, the middle one from the pandemic, in that folks are still in more calls than ever before, right? As we shifted to digitally, it didn't just mean that we have more meetings because we went digitally, right? So there's been this natural increase in the way that we collaborate through meetings. Folks feel more empowered, whether it was from virtualness or not, but folks feel more empowered right now to set up meetings and collaborate together. So generally that's perceived as a good thing, but right now it could be a bad thing when we think of work-life balance or calendar management. And then the third trend, which I certainly empathize with, folks aligned. The number one productivity disruptor to their day is being in inefficient meetings. So when you really think of these three things together, folks are in more meetings than ever before. They're finding themselves in inefficient meetings, which is taking their time away from the day. And then they're spending a lot of their time looking for information that they're not necessarily finding easily. And so that's time we want to reclaim back. And I think as we go into the next trend, we think about those trends were very much end user specific. We think about leadership. What are CEOs or the general leadership of the company thinking about? And so from that same Work Trend Index report, overwhelmingly, employees are still feeling like they don't have enough time to do their job. So this could be a range of, again, just kind of time management from your traditional 9 to 5, or also they don't have the right tooling, right? When we think about the lack of search, to me, that's more of a technological issue than a timing issue. 3.5 times more likely to struggle with innovation and strategic thinking. So again, thinking about those trends of not having enough time or energy, not having the right tooling, these start to combine together. And then 60% of leaders say lack of innovation is a concern. And this isn't tied to, my employees aren't productive or they're not thinking well. It's really tied to this idea that us as, individual workers or individual contributors, or I like to say the term grunt worker, right? You're really kind of in the weeds of driving the business day to day. We're having a hard time really focus on that forward thinking because we're spending so much time down into the weeds working on tasks. So where this all comes together and where we're leading into Teams Premium and things like you might have seen the exciting Copilot announcement, is that employees are really looking for AI to help them with those day-to-day tasks, that productivity. So it's 86% say they want to be able to leverage AI to help find info and answers much more quickly. So that aligns directly to that nearly 2/3 of folks are struggling with finding information. And then the rest of these, I know personally I empathize with, and I probably would have ranked all of these high up on my to-do list as well for the WTI. Because again, I think this second one is most important, right? This ability to end a meeting and not have to type meeting minutes, not have to do follow-ups, right? To naturally transition into that next one. Otherwise, what happens, and I wonder if folks on the call feel the same thing, is meetings stack up back to back to back, and you get to the end of your workday and you realize you didn't send out those meeting minutes or those action items, and you start to misremember them, and there starts to be a break in like how fluidly kind of those meetings are run. So most folks that have success driving those action items, reminders, etc., are setting them after the fact. They're very crisp, clear, and objective of what needs to happen. And I won't drain the rest of these, but again, I feel like these are very tangible items that most of us want our help with day to day. And we think about what leadership wants. Most importantly, it's this increasing employee productivity. And that's really kind of a vague or generic statement that I think you can kind of roll your eyes to, right? Of course, leadership wants folks to increase their productivity more. But what I tie this to is the rest of these, as far as, increasing employee well-being, help them repeat those mundane kind of busy work tasks. That's where I believe AI can help come in, and it can help free up us as individual contributors to really start to think forward thinking and focus on that innovation and help drive that trend. And so that was a nutshell, but I do like to lead that in because, collectively customers were coming to Microsoft and saying, hey, we use Teams today. What we really want to see you start to innovate on is this idea of integrating in, this idea of intelligent productivity into the stack. Right. And you saw this with Copilot. It's not something that happens in a year. The team has been working on this offering for 2 to 3 years, a lot of planning and working with customers, industry experts to put these together. And these were the trends and signals that came from all those folks that gave us input. They said, Microsoft, with this new Teams offering, we want to see you really integrate in some intelligent behaviors to it, end to end. We want to see some more advanced protection for those kind of specific use case scenarios or specific meeting types that do need enhanced protection that's not blanketly across the organization. And then the third area is, we want to brand the real estate of Teams, right? This is not a new ask across the traditional products or portfolios of Microsoft, but this idea that, hey, there's a lot of commercial real estate in the Teams client. We want to add our own kind of unique customization to it, our flavor, infuse our brand identity or our kind of workplace culture into it. And so those three things came together on top of the usual ask for most customers. It's, very bluntly, hey, Microsoft, we want some more advanced control or management over the way that we manage the service. Traditionally, customers have always paid for that, and those same asks came in. But instead of orienting this around a very much kind of IT management or IT pro stack, we really wanted to start to infuse some of these other areas of, again, being able to drive brand and culture through more detailed and richer engagements, and then also infuse that productivity side of it through artificial intelligence and machine learning. So again, that was a super big mouthful. I kind of really teed up this slide, in the prior lead-in. But again, these were the signals that we actually collected from customers, community experts, our MVPs, all of the above. Too much time spent in meetings, the risk of leaked information from meetings, which really stem from the shift to virtual, but now we maintain a lot of digital or virtual meetings. The fact that they aren't one size fits all. And so this comes from even scheduling, right? When we think about meeting options, we had a request, is there a way to automate these or automatically apply them based on different parameters? And then lastly, this whole do more with less trend that you might have heard Satya Nadella talk about. But essentially, this is very true. Customers are looking at multiple tools that they are paying vendors for, including could include things like Teams and Zoom and Slack or whatever it may be. And they're really looking to centralize and standardize around one platform that provides them and their organization the best end-to-end experience, including different elements of how they run their business without having to have this multi-vendor experience. We saw this happen with the security and compliance vendor stack about 5 years ago, where there used to be this fear that everything shouldn't be, all together, this idea of no all eggs in one basket. And then we saw this big shift, right, starting to centralize around Microsoft as your stack or other providers because of that direct escalation to that provider, the support staff, the ease of integration, et cetera. So I think we're starting to see that happen with the collaboration space as well. And so where we start, I think the most exciting thing that we've seen come to market that is caught by press and analysts and even some of our customer executives is this idea of intelligent productivity. So being able to focus on what is most important in the meeting, which is the content and discussion itself, and then also helping with that after the fact. So whether it's sending out meeting minutes or whether it's you personally having to consume a meeting recording after the fact and not wanting to have to splice around. So with what we call our intelligent recap, this builds on the basic meeting recap that you all get today with part of the core team service. So the core meeting recap lets you know basic things like who attended. I think it links some of the file assets or like the meeting recording, whatever else. Just a basic, a very basic summary of what went on in the meeting. Intelligent Recap is going to be able to leverage the meeting transcript and the recording itself and piece together a personalized and customized experience that helps you as the individual, one, consume the recording or meeting after the fact easier for you. And then it's also going to provide this AI assistance or automation where we're going to be able to use AI or machine learning to create two things. Shortened meeting minutes, or what we call AI assisted notes, and then also AI assigned tasks. So if in this case, Jane went to me and during the meeting, she said, John, I'm going to need you to upload that PowerPoint file by end of day. That's a very specific task that can be captured and documented and assigned out to me through the AI assisted tasks. And as far as the AI assisted notes goes, again, it's going to look through that transcript and it's going to offer a very short or truncated version, what traditionally are known as meeting minutes. So again, those get done on your behalf, which is great because it's going to help save time and again, focus on the discussion or the content itself. Some other really cool call outs, I think, a part of the Intelligent Recap. Again, it's kind of a full end-to-end experience. You'll see the recap tab generate when you click on the meeting itself. So traditionally you see chat files, your details. You'll see this recap tab as far as your basic meeting cap. In the intelligent version, again, you're going to see the AI notes listed here. You're going to see AI assisted tasks. And then you can also leverage what we have down here. That's as far as like speaker bars. So you're able to look at when other speakers spoke in that meeting. So for me, maybe I remember someone said, John said something very important, so I can go jump to his. Or if I actually couldn't attend that meeting at all, that's where Intelligent Recap, in my opinion, really shines through, is you can easily catch up on a meeting and not have to listen to the whole thing. When you think about marathon style meetings, right, that are 60 minutes, 90 minutes, maybe a depth of business review cycle or something like that can last 2 to 3 hours. It helps you really jump to these on-demand points. We saw this happen in, I think, the digital creation. You think YouTube videos, right? Folks started creating their own chapters and segmenting it so that you can jump to those different points, whether you're watching like a do-it-yourself style, fixing your furnace or something like that, right? You can jump to those specific points. It helps us all make the consumption easier, and also allows us to kind of learn at our own pace and consume it on demand. So you're starting to see a lot of that technology infused into the way that we want to recap our meetings. And so we're going to start to utilize things like automatically generated chapters, so you don't have to slice those individually. Again, the speaker engagement bar to see who spoke and where. And then we can also do things like points of interest. So again, if I left that meeting, it's going to denote that in the timeline for me and say, hey, John, this is where you left the meeting and where you're going to want to pick back up. I can also see when screens were shared. So if I remember, oh, there's a screen share, or my manager mentioned to me, hey, check out when Jane shared her screen or talked, you can jump to those points. And then lastly, we could also do things like suggested speakers. So for instance, Bill and I work together a lot. So he's a speaker for me that I'd like to see a heat map for, that basically, when Bill talked, those are important parts for me to consume. So all over the board. I know I just threw a lot of information at you there, but again, there's multifacets when we think about an intelligent recap. There's helping folks end that meeting and transition into their next meetings without having to think of those kind of busy work tasks like capturing action items or meeting minutes and sending them out. Helps us easily transition into the next period and helps upload some of those kind of, again, busy work, mundane tasks we want help with. And then it also helps the after the fact review or rewatch of the recording. So whether you missed the meeting itself, or you only joined a portion, or you need to rewatch it again, Intelligent Recap also supports and adds there. I will do a quick pause. Again, that was a super big amount of information coming in. Margie, Mansoor, Microsoft team, anything you wanted to add here as far as how we think of Intelligent Recap today?
No, I think, John, thank you so much. You summed it pretty well. I think we should continue with the presentation.
Awesome. Thank you, Mansoor.
Mm-hmm.
All right, continuing on here. So just a kind of a quick summary, kind of zooms in on some of the items I talked about. Again, here's the speaker bar, some chapters, some identifying topics that get generated. So again, I think a really nice view. Again, it's all inside of your team's calendar, so easy to consume after the fact. Move to the next area. We talk about advanced protection, and this is not meant to necessarily be an end-all, be-all, widespread across your organization. This stemmed from customers coming to us, even before the pandemic, saying, as we host Teams meetings through virtual connections and digital, we need to connect with product teams around the globe or partner teams around the globe, and we need to talk about very sensitive information. In person, when you think back to, I can describe the way that Microsoft used to do things. Let's say we had a product review. It may be in person in one of the engineering buildings, and if we're this strict, right, you are able to verify facial identity as people walk in. Again, it's probably just someone standing outside the room. Check the badge, check the person, make sure they're invited. You might leave your phone outside, leave your computer outside because you don't want pictures being taken. When we shifted to virtual, that's not as easy to do, right? Nothing is really stopping me from, using my phone right here and taking pictures of slides. And so we wanted to start to integrate some of these advanced protection layers for those kind of use case specific cases. So at the end of the day, I work in product marketing. Much of what I do doesn't really need advanced protection to it. But when I'm working on something like Teams Premium, when we had an internal code name for it and we couldn't share it publicly or actually even wider amongst our internal FTEs, we did need that advanced protection, right, in order to help keep this secret, to not leak out, etc. And that's where things like watermarking, which is one of our big features, comes into play. And so what you're able to do is actually enable a digital watermark that appears over the user or the viewer screen in two separate areas. One is over the video feeds. So as I'm talking right now and you see my video, it's going to have a watermark displayed over that. And it's also going to display a watermark over the content feed. These are two individual controllable scenarios. So if you want to only do the content feed or only the video feed, you could do those as well. Or by default, we recommend turning both of them on. But what that watermark is going to display is the user's email address or the viewer's email address. So in this case, Bill set up this meeting, and let's say he's sharing a file. I'm actually going to, in this bottom right-hand view, you're going to see the watermark is displayed multiple times in a diagonal pattern. And in my case, I would see my own email address. And the reason for that is if I decided to use Snippet right now and take a snippet of a slide that had a watermark over it, and I decided to post it on social media, it's not going to take Microsoft very long to easily trace that back to me, and take the content down, and I'm sure I'm going to get in quite a bit of trouble for leaking the information. So the idea of this watermarking is different from what you get in static documents today, where we typically just put confidential, top secret, whatever it may be. This is to help specifically deter leaks from inside of meetings. We also felt it was important to do it for the video feed, not necessarily because someone wants to take a snippet of what I look like and put it on the internet for everyone to laugh at, but more so, let's say I am releasing a new product and I'm just looking for something around here. This is an old Microsoft mouse, but let's say like, hey guys, I'm really excited to share this is our new mouse that just launched. That was another vector of exposure or data leakage. And we actually had customers coming to us during the COVID-19 pandemic saying, hey, we unfortunately don't feel empowered to showcase our new products through video feeds because they're being leaked that way. Again, think design or toys or clothing brands. Like these were real problems they were struggling with. And it was not unique to Teams. It was across the collaboration platform solutions. And that's why we felt it was really important to do multiple different areas. So some of the things we're forward thinking on as far as watermarking goes, we've got some feedback on the ability to customize it. So not just the, kind of the opacity or the way that it displays, but the text that goes behind it. So that's something that we're looking into, and we're getting a lot of great feedback on watermarking. But I'd say that's probably the number one hero feature to me that probably gets most utilized across all business units. Most of us, I would say, at some point in our careers or yearly cycle, we're going to be working with some confidential or sensitive information that it's just so easy to flip on watermarking. It's literally, 2 clicks if you want both of them enabled for video feed and content feed. So easy, and it monumentally helps deter data leaks. We found that with watermarking inside of static documentation, in our PowerPoint files or Excel, etc. So the ability to do this in real time during meetings is monumental to helping us deter those data leaks. Some other areas that I think are really cool when we talked about this idea of automating meeting options, I will say I am personally guilty of not setting individual meeting options for every meeting, but that's really how these were meant to, in some cases, meant to help influence how we meet with folks. An example of that would be if we have an internal meeting, I really don't need to put many safeguards around that meeting, right? Everyone could just, come into it. If there's someone that was not invited, probably kick them out, whatever it may be. But when we start to work outside the business or with certain business units or we're talking about certain content, we do need to up level those safeguards. And what happens is not everyone does it manually. There are plenty of organizations that have really good hygiene and operational excellence where they train their end users on how to, manually edit each meeting option for unique meetings. Again, me at Microsoft, I'm really bad at it. And so what we released is something that was music to my ears, is this idea of what we call customized meeting templates. So the ability for IT to define different meeting templates that will pre-configure and even if you want pre-enforce or actually enforce varying meeting options. And so what that may look like is Microsoft IT might create something called external meeting. And so when I go and set up a new meeting type, I'm going to go up to my team's calendar and collect the normal drop down. But instead of selecting new meeting, I'm going to select external meeting. And what that's going to do is in the same easy setup process, it's going to predefine or actually enforce the meeting options that Microsoft IT has set for external meetings. So maybe all non-Microsoft employees need to be admitted from the lobby. Maybe we have meeting chat only enabled during the meeting itself. Maybe I'm only allowed to screen share, etc. So a lot of different options you can do there. And again, I think the beauty is there's two facets to it. IT can either pre-configure those, so they're preset, but they allow you as the individual to change it after you've set up the meeting or you're going through there, or you can actually, totally enforce them. So again, when I think of Microsoft IT and how they may use this in terms of, an external type meeting, probably going to be enforced because, typically have our own internal compliance standards. But when you think maybe boardroom style discussion meeting template or financial review meeting template, if we have a dedicated driver or a host of those meetings, maybe we'll give them some flexibility. So in kind of a nutshell, what meeting templates really help us do is automate the application of meeting options on behalf of our end users. And we want to create kind of a small groupings of those, and you could deploy them, based on departments or business units, etc. So you don't have to make all of them available to everyone. So again, let's say you want to do a financial discussion template, a boardroom style template. Those do not have to be shown to all employees. But all employees then can get something like the external meeting template, maybe protected content or sensitive content meeting. Again, you as your organization are going to work to define those best, the same way that you probably work to define sensitivity labels. And the last one I'll touch on here is an enhanced end-to-end encryption option for Teams meetings. So today, in part of the core experience, everyone can make one-to-one calls using end-to-end encryption. If you're not familiar with what E2EE is or end-to-end encryption, it's this idea that the communication is truly encrypted end-to-end. That means at no point during the process is it discoverable for you as the organization in terms of compliance solutioning. So that is where there is a major trade-off. There's also a trade-off of certain functionalities like the ability to record, to get telemetry on it. And this is not specific to Microsoft. This is agnostic to the technology itself. The way I like to think of E2E, if you're not familiar with it, it's great for when I'm texting my friends, my family members, my colleagues, whatever else about non-specific work, because again, that privacy is there and I don't have to worry about any intermediary person. When it comes down to the business, it becomes a lot more difficult of when end-to-end encryption should be leveraged because organizations own the data. And more importantly, a lot of organizations have requirements to either maintain data, retain it, to run it through e-discovery or things like that. And when you do end-to-end encryption, it is outside of that boundary, right? There is no encryption in transit and at rest point to point where you can decrypt that content and run compliance tooling on it. So end-to-end encryption is a very, it should be a very conscientious opt-in experience. We've taken the approach when Mansour's team helped launch the one-to-one calling a couple years ago. We wanted to take a different industry approach than just default enable it for everyone, to actually give IT a little bit more control and educate them on the trade-offs of it. Because again, I could hop on a one-to-one call and I could start leaking a ton of information and sharing it, right? And that becomes a really bad vector because we don't have control over it. So our personal, or I can't say it for everyone, Microsoft. My personal opinion is end-to-end encryption is a great tool when it's necessary, but it should be controlled in the organization and used very intentionally versus kind of enabled for everyone to use freely. Because again, it's not just some of the feature and functionality trade-off of like transcription, translation in the meeting itself. It's also that compliance tooling, and we want to make sure that customers are not being put out of regulation or out of compliance standards because they didn't fully understand the impact that end-to-end encryption would have. All right, and last thing, we talked about some of the different meeting options that can be governed by meeting templates. We are continuing to work on different kind of granular meeting options, things like being very selective on limiting which attendees can record, so up-leveling those to the presenter itself. But I'd say that the biggest beauty with advanced protection, in my opinion, is the watermarking ability, and then also the customized meeting templates that just make setting up meetings with pre-configured safeguards a super breeze, super easy for us to all do. All right, and so I understand that Miriam here is actually going to be muted, but we'll kind of take a quick live view of what it looks like for setting up a meeting experience. So you'll see here as we get into the next section, we actually have some branding going on. We have the real estate changed here for our Halo theme, and you have an Xbox logo in this element as well. And then as Miriam here joins the meeting experience itself, you're going to see the traditional join experience, and then you're actually going to see the very first thing is watermarking, right? So we let them know, your attendees know that a watermark is being applied to the video feed, and you're going to see it in that diagonal pattern across the screen. As content may get shared out, we love Xbox, so we'll keep with the Xbox theme here. Again, you're going to see it over the content feed. You're going to see it over the video feeds. So the full meeting is watermarked across the screen. And then you're going to see in a couple other prompts as well. So in this case, we have this meeting end-to-end encrypted. So again, it's going to let those folks know that, hey, this meeting is end-to-end encrypted. This is, again, not specific to Microsoft. This is the standard policy, because what you'll see next is the ability to now go ahead and click on the shield icon. And it's going to give you that, I believe, 16-digit code that you can verify with someone else. Let's see, 20-digit code that you would use to pair with that person to validate that you have the same cryptography in place. So again, this is just an extra step if you've enabled end-to-end encryption to really validate that everything is there. And then the last area is for if you on our E5 stack and you're using information protection labeling today with Teams Premium, we are bringing in this idea of using sensitivity labels in real-time meetings. This is a whole new investment area for Microsoft, is this ability to apply sensitivity labels and certain information protection variables in real time during a meeting, right? It has to be near instantaneous for when something is said to be able to protect it. So we want to start to bring that in as well. The last thing I'll call out on this video is you'll see here that the meeting itself, like the video, audio, video, is end-to-end encrypted, but we do not end-to-end encrypt the chat. This still follows our industry standard encryption in transit and at rest. And if your head is spinning from everything I just said, because I know I talk fast, the one takeaway I want everyone to have is Teams is not insecure. We still use encryption in transit and at rest. That is the industry standard for vendors for a reason, because again, you can decrypt the traffic, or sorry, the content as needed. You as the customer own your data. So it is industry standard. Everything is still encrypted at the highest levels. This end-to-end encryption option is, again, an option for when that extra layer of privacy is really, really needed, and is actually at the forefront of everything else. The best tangible example I could think of is, I think, geopolitical discussions. I care more about who may be listening in than the actual user experience of the meeting itself, right? Like, I want everyone to be securely in this discussion where I can have high confidence that no one else is listening in, even if that means I can't record the meeting. So continuing on, you saw some of the richer engagements there in the little demo clip with the branded Halo theme in the background. I hope our Halo fans and Xbox fans enjoyed that little tidbit. But again, this gets into this idea that folks came to Microsoft and said, "Hey, we really start to love to be able to brand the Teams client." And so it starts with this ability to do some digital branding in the join launcher or the launcher experience, as we call it. So when you hit your join meeting, you'll see two areas of branding. The first is the background, which is its own separate image that you can upload. So this could be anything from just a visual experience like here, or the Halo one that you saw, or you could do a very prominent branding, your company name, a mission statement, whatever it may be. And then you have another area where you saw the Xbox icon in that video where this little VA is and my pointer is hovering. That is typically specifically for like a logo. So you could use each of them together. You could only use one. It's kind of up to you as the organization. What some really cool ways we've seen organizations use this to differentiate is when you think of customer service. So all the way from consulting to support engineering to customer support, whatever it may be. When that person joins that meeting experience, or even selling or trying to create new partnerships, whatever it may be, the very first join experience is seeing, I'll use Microsoft in this example, is seeing Microsoft's name here. They're going to see a branded Microsoft logo here. And maybe at the bottom, we're going to have, Satya's mission statement of empower every human to do and achieve more, right? So you get greeted with this very kind of unique experience that is differentiated from your typical vendor pitches. You have trust and confidence of who you're meeting with. And again, it really offers a different experience. And this isn't new, right? This idea of branding, meeting folks when they're greeted, because I like to think of, if I'm meeting with my financial planner, when I met with them in person, the first thing I'm greeted with when I go into that office is the branding of the organization, right? You want to be instilled with confidence and trust. If I walked into that financial meeting and the lobby was not lit up and there were rodents running around, like, I'm probably not going to have high confidence in my financial advisor if they can't maintain their own building. So when we think about that digitally, it's the same thing, right? We want to offer an enhanced experience as soon as that meeting starts, right? We want to offer that full end-to-end engagement where they feel like they're getting a differentiated experience. So again, customer support, this has been a huge shine through. It's been a huge kind of momentum driver for those folks to one, offer that confidence and trust with the customer, but then also when we think about sales cycles or new vendor pitches and whatever else, so if you're running a request for proposal or something like that, to really differentiate yourself. In the meeting itself, then we have the ability to do things like IT-controlled meeting backgrounds. So everyone today, as part of the core Teams experience, you can bring your own custom background. I have a standard Teams one today, but if I wanted to upload an image from a vacation I was on or something else, that's all customizable and something I could do as the individual. IT managed backgrounds are the ability for IT to define certain backgrounds and publish them out. So these typically are from organizations that are very, very brand compliant, brand specific. So I'm just going to make up John Shoe Company. Let's say I'm very, very specific. Hey, this is the only logo we could use. I can then create that as a background and make sure that everyone is using that background with the proper logo, versus allowing myself to just create my own logo and paint whatever it may be. So that's kind of the branding side of it. I think the bigger elements of driving richer engagements is what we talked about with supporting more than just one standard meeting type, right? I use the term meeting or call, whatever it may be, right? But this idea is that every engagement is different. When I'm meeting with customers, it's a completely different engagement when I'm having an internal rhythm of business meeting with my colleagues. So it comes in two facets. We saw a huge demand or requests for this idea of what we call business to consumer. So I think telehealth, financial consultations, interviewing, all these things that previously were very in-person experiences, we realize they can be done digitally or virtually, and they can be done well. Right. And that's where we start to think of what we call our advanced virtual appointment stack, this ability to, again, manage it end to end. And so it starts with things like this ability to do things like an SMS or text-based reminder beforehand. When they join the meeting experience, they don't have to download the Teams client themselves. They're instantly allowed into the lobby, and then they're greeted with the same branding experience. So again, telehealth or health consultations is a great one. Like I can have a totally differentiated experience when I get a reminder, hey, your appointment is tomorrow. Click this link to join. I don't have to download anything. I click that link to join in. I see my healthcare provider's, background down there, and I'm, reassured that I'm meeting with that provider, and it's really nice that they have this nice touch. I get into the meeting experience itself, have all that. And then after the fact, we transition from an end-to-end experience to change over to our IT side of it, or our facilitators. They can manage things like to see average no-shows, wait times. So if you think of like a queuing type process where maybe we have a pool of different, healthcare providers, you could start to manage and see, who's having the longest times, what does your no-show appointments look like, all those kind of rich analytics that we would expect to have to drive seamless business to consumer collaboration. Those all get surfaced, and they're available inside of the Teams client itself, actually, for those facilitators to take a look at. And I mentioned facilitators because we think about healthcare, right? The doctor or the nurse or nurse practitioner generally is going to be the person that joins it, but the setup and enablement is typically done by a scheduler or facilitator. So that person also needs to be able to have that management layer. As we transition to a totally different type of experience, what we're doing right now, we think webinars. Webinars is another one that there is a lot of point-based solutions, and there's a lot of point-based overhead associated with this. Microsoft itself, we still to this day, we pay technical producers to help us run webinars. And this was something that we wanted to start to figure out, how can we bring this in-house? And again, this idea of mimicking in-person experience. If you've been to Microsoft Ignite, or you've been to any type of conference experience, there's a couple things that happen, right? As you're transitioning from session to session, the next presenters are backstage. They're getting mic'd up. They're checking audio quality. They're checking if the PowerPoint works, maybe hair and makeup, depending on the production levels, right? And then when we think about the actual experience itself during the session, it's dynamic, right? The presenter can walk around on stage. They can change views. They can change a lot to it. When we went virtual, folks started to feel like it's maybe a little bit of a static experience. So we wanted to start to integrate things like what we call green room. So as the presentation is going on, we can actually have the next presenters staged up. So again, you can check those audio video elements without interrupting the actual webinar experience. And then I love the manage what attendees can see view. I think it's really cool to dynamically change the way that the view or content is coming across during a presentation or webinar experience. For instance, in this case, maybe I want to have the slides behind me. We call it the newscaster view. I'm doing a live demo. Now I want myself to disappear and I want to focus solely on the content. And then I get to a Q&A or a panel style session where the content can go away, and it's going to focus on just me as the person itself. Does that radically completely differentiate your webinar experience from one where it's just kind of like we're doing today, where it's just content and video? No, but when we think about high production, again, offering a best-in-class experience, I almost said a bad word there. You can bet your bottom dollar that does make a difference, right? And it does make a difference with the way that your attendees perceive the engagement itself. So again, we want to offer that full end-to-end experience where your attendees are getting a very dynamically changing experience, where on the back end, you're getting those analytics, you're getting those configurations, you're making those management changes to offer a fully seamless experience. So again, I kind of relate these things to the in-person element and what we used to expect when we are in person. We don't want a presenter to just stand there and speak monotone, right? We want some dynamic engagement to it. We want to infuse that into the way that we meet digitally or virtually as well, because obviously, In-person conferences are great. There's a connection element to it. The digital or the reach we get through digital webinars and is best in class, right? We can't beat that. So we really want to start to allow organizations to bring webinars in-house and cut out some of those maybe point-based solution costs or technical producer costs, so that your marketing team, your engineering team, whoever may be running some of these webinar experiences, your digital tooling team, can do this in-house, right? And they feel like they have the true controls to run it end to end. So I talked about advanced VA and webinars. I'll just kind of quickly touch on so you can see what those experiences look like. So again, that scheduler view of being able to see all the appointments stacked up, and note it is inside the Teams client itself with the little virtual appointments app right here. So you can see all those. You can manage the queue view. You can see whether it's started or not, or if there's someone in the waiting room, the walk-in experiences. From the during the fact, we talk about, again, SMS reminders, an easy join experience. They're greeted with the branding element to it. And then after the fact, you have the aggregated appointments that talk about no-show, wait times, and you can really, operationally offer operational excellence and streamline your appointments for B2C. Again, this doesn't stop with telehealth. We started to find all new examples of this when we think about interviewing, right? This used to be a very in-person experience, especially with like university recruiting. Now you can, again, offer that kind of best-in-class experience where you send them a follow-up reminder, but then you're greeted, right? You greet them with the branding element to it. So when folks join that, the interview meeting experience, they probably are joining, 5 to 10 of them as an industry professional or as a university student. You want to differentiate, right? You want to make, if you're really trying to recruit someone, you want to offer a differentiated experience. So when they join that, they see Microsoft's logo and mission statement, or they see Contoso's, whatever it may be. It really, again, helps add that extra flavor to it. So we've seen organizations start to go beyond the traditional B2C engagements of, consultation, financial planning, telehealth, to move into things like HR tasks, interviewing, even when you think about like a one-on-one analyst review, whatever it may be, it offers a very, very awesome experience. And with webinars, again, that full end-to-end experience. So automated reminder emails, which is available today, and it's actually part of the core product. And then managing your registration capacity, waitlist approval, things like that. So if you are, capped out at your 1,000 limit, you want to be able to admit people in as people drop out to, again, offer an awesome experience. Inside the webinar experience itself, managing that virtual green room to stage your content and get everything ready to go. And then lastly, when I talked about the dynamic view, kind of shuffling and changing things to maintain your audience engagement. So again, I want to do a quick pause and say I totally understand. I speak very quickly. I am from the Midwest and I use some slang. Sometimes I don't think words I use exist, but I want to say thank you to everyone. I know I just threw a lot of information out there at you. So we wanted to try and put together a kind of a call to action or a what's what slide here. So learning more about Teams Premium, check out our standard website, aka.ms/thebetterwaytomeet. You'll be able to see pricing and some of the kind of more marketing elements of what we talked about today, is taking a look at individual features and how may it benefit you. We have an introductory offer out there today. It applies to GCC as well. So it's $7 per user per month. And then, of course, work with your account team on account specific pricing, but did want to note that the introductory price does include GCC. And you'll see that at the footnote of the website. And then you can also work with your account team on looking at setting up a trial. So we do offer free trials today through the GCC space. You do need to work with your account team, and they'll work with our internal government teams to help enable these up. But if you want a trial, you can get 25 licenses, good for 30 days. So you can start looking at and testing some of these elements and configuring them. Traditionally, most folks do a POC. To be super honest, generally, my experience in the field and doing field engineering is customers do a trial, then they buy a small subset of licensing to do the POC, and then they actually roll it out more broadly. So if that's your natural stage, it works out. And then we'll drop some links in here. But as far as white glove support, T Premium, the letter T Premium at Microsoft.com. Go ahead and drop us a note there, and you can also contact your account team. And Rocky, I think this is actually your slide, so I'll pass it back to you.
Yeah, if as a customer, if you are ready to deploy, we are offering a white glove experience within Teams Engineering. Please reach out to that alias below. And if we need to, we'll throw it in the meeting chat as well. And then if you would like more information about Teams Premium specifically or a deeper dive, please reach out to your account teams, and then they'll get in contact with us accordingly. And then I think we have time for some Q&A.
Awesome. Yeah, it's about 10 minutes. Sorry, Rocky, for stealing your thunder there.
No worries.
We had a couple questions in chat. So if you want to take a look at those, Rocky, and read those to John or Mansoor or Margie to answer.
Yeah. One of the first questions was, what data does the AI integration ingest, and how does the user agreement work in terms of IP proprietary data?
Yeah, thanks, Rocky. I can take that. And I'm just going to give a little bit of a longer view of that, just a yes, no. But in fact, so the intelligent recap, which is the AI-based, is generated based on the transcripts and recording of the meeting. First and foremost, I want to say like the user data is not at all exposed to any third party. And even in the case of GPT-based models, Microsoft runs the models internally within a dedicated GPT service that is within the compliance boundaries, and that is used only for Office 365 services. And it has also gone through all of the security and privacy scrutiny like any other services does. And also the other thing to mention here is the Teams Premium is available in GCC, but Intelligent Recap is not yet available. And part of the reason is also because we don't have those services yet deployed in the GCC or in the Gov Cloud. So we need to make sure, again, it adheres to all the standards according to the GCC, and also go through like all of these privacy, security, and FedRAMP certification and whatnot for Azure OpenAI. So that's that. And in terms of the other data, so it's all recording and transcript. It actually is, the content is just generated based off of that, and it actually lives in users' exchange box or the participants' inbox for that meetings. And all of the sort of recap just follows the same retention policy as recordings and transcript. So if the recording and transcript is deleted, the recap is also deleted, and all the AI insights will be deleted. Now, of course, if someone just goes ahead and copies the intelligent notes that are generated out of the recap and just pastes them somewhere else, obviously then it's out of the recap retention policy. But it essentially just uses the same retention policy as recording and transcript. I hope it answers the question, but if I can go more if there are further follow-ups.
Mansoor, one follow-up I've seen in this topic is if you can confirm, like, Intelligent Recap isn't creating a bunch of sub artifacts, right? Like all these different, like, tangible artifacts that are being created. It's typically using the service that you mentioned, right? The transcript and the recording to generate this, because typically that's what we ask, or we get asked from customers is like, does Intelligent Recap create 15 artifacts that are stored inside of different folders for end user from a manageability standpoint?
So it does create like, for example, notes are generated and they're stored in the exchange folder of users inbox or mailbox. So the participant who are there are only the ones gonna see it, and they're coming from their mailbox.
Perfect, thank you. And as you mentioned, it's all within the scope of our M365 compliance.
Correct.
Review. Yeah,
correct.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
All right, Rocky, next question.
Yep. Can external users see the recap information?
I believe so, as long as they're invited to the meeting and they're part of the same tenant as guest users, then yes. But we need to reconfirm that, and we can get back to that particularly.
Copy. And I do not believe there's any other questions. This would last call for questions if there's any.
Rocky, maybe I quickly touch on licensing real quick, just who needs a license. That's one of our most common asks. So we did mention, some of these more meeting organizer-based features. The really cool thing that we did with this, and it's actually a brand new kind of licensing model for Microsoft, is we look at the meeting organizer. So if the meeting organizer has a Teams Premium license assigned, about 80 to 90% of these features are going to work for everybody in the meeting. So that helps you not necessarily have to cover your entire tenant. Many organizations are buying it for the entire tenant. But the idea is like it will provide holistic coverage. So we think watermarking. If Rocky enabled watermarking for this meeting and it has a Teams Premium license of the organizer, as an unlicensed user, I'm still going to get watermarked, right? And that makes total sense. It shouldn't be if you're unlicensed, you get your way around it. The main feature that does require a Teams Premium license to benefit from is the intelligent recap. And that's because it's a personalized consumptive-based service. So each user needs a license in order to generate it. To be super transparent with everyone, it's the highest cost of the license. It's using, as Mansoor mentioned, a lot of data processing power, and it is personalized to each user, right? We talked about those speaker notes. So, but things like watermarking, end-to-end encryption, the branding, the live translation for captions, as long as the meeting organizer has a Teams Premium license, we're going to extend coverage of those features to everyone that joins, including external participants. So, we know times are tough economically and folks are really looking at budgets. This should help folks that are kind of looking at departmental-based licensing or champions-based licensing if you're not ready to fully enable every single one of these users. So hopefully that made sense.
That's a good call out, John. Appreciate it. I'd like to thank the folks for, oh yeah, go ahead, Mansoor.
Sorry, Rocky, just confirming on the previous question. Again, as I said, when meeting with the people outside of the organization, only those participants who are on the same tenant as the person who started the recording will have the Teams recap access. Again, of course, when they have the premium license. So yes, the answer is, again, you have to be on the same tenant.
Copy. Thank you, Mansoor.
So Mansoor, just to clarify, that means guests will not see it.
No, as long as they are federated into that tenant, they will be able to.
Federated guests can see the summary.
Correct.
Those who are not federated will not.
Right.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you to the Teams Premium folks. Last item that I'd like to call out again is if you haven't tried out if you're not taking advantage of the trial licensing available inside of GCC, recommend to reach out to your account exec on the Microsoft side, and then they will get you in touch and get you down the path of doing the trial licenses. And if you are already ready to deploy, you've already made a purchase, or even if you are going through the trial phase, we want to make sure that you are successful leveraging Teams Premium. Please reach out to that alias tpremium@microsoft.com. And with that, thank you all for your time today. Thank you.